WSOU's Valentino here with Sam Carter from Architects. How you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing very well, man. I'm very well.
Awesome, awesome. Glad to
How
hear
are you?
it.
How are you?
I can't complain. Thank you for asking. I'm feeling good,
Good,
feeling
man.
good.
That's what I like to hear.
So now you have your new album, For Those Who Wish to Exist, coming very soon, February 26th. How are you feeling? That release date is coming around the corner.
It feels really good, man. It feels like a long time coming for this one, and it's been a weird sort of time since we finished recording it. We started recording it during the first lockdown that we had here, and now we're in our third one, almost a year later. So nice to nice to have something to look forward to.
Exactly. And especially when a lot of people are feeling very bleak right now, there hasn't been an end in sight for well over a year. And I'm sure
Yes.
a lot of people have been connecting to this music, with a lot of their themes and all that's going on with it.
Yeah, the sick people that want to get sadder. No, it's music is an escape for a lot of people, and myself included. And I think it has the power to sort of take you away from whatever stresses that you're dealing with at the moment. And yeah, it's a pretty worldwide problem that we're facing. So yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see that the record means so much to people, and the singles have really connected. So yeah, I'm super excited for everyone to hear the whole thing.
Definitely, definitely. And not only are the lyrical themes super, intense and beautiful and relate to what we're going through right now, but even musicality, this is a very, very new direction for this band. And obviously Architects have never made the same record twice. You've always pushed your sound forward, but specifically with this one, it's the most cinematic and grandiose the band has ever felt.
Absolutely, yeah. And I feel like it was time to take the sort of leap into like a new world. We've the past three records before this one were in a sort of similar vein, lyrically, musically as well. Because of the situation that we were going through, it was almost impossible to write about anything else. But now, it feels like a totally fresh start for us. And on your ninth record, not everybody gets to say that. So, it feels good, and it felt like a time to, take some risks and do what we wanted to do creatively, and sort of just, go for it. I think the safe option almost would have been carrying on down the route that we were going. And that was, working, and we love those songs. But, we knew we were going to ruffle some feathers, but, it's our band at the end of the day. And, we've been in it since we were like 16. So time for a refresh.
Exactly. And I know that, it's typically in the rock scene when a band tries to change their sound, a lot of the fans typically either frown upon it or hate it. But in this case, I've seen nothing but positive comments and positive reviews. A lot of the people
Yeah.
are really loving this new change.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And I think even like some people have that sort of knee-jerk reaction where they're like, "Oh, I'm not really into this," and then 2 weeks later they're like, "I said I wasn't into it, but now I've sat with it and I get it." And I totally get that. We've had like over a year to adjust to this, new sound and what we're going for. So, we're used to it. People just need to sort of have a few weeks to listen and get in that headspace. But yeah, for the most part, it's been really positive, which has been amazing. And I think that's
Exactly.
good for like creativity. You don't want to, not strive to create because you're worried that people are going to be like, "You've sold out." There's no point.
Exactly. Once you absence of fear, you can really start to dive into, complete something coherent, start to finish completely, I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
And especially I know that when you did your stream, all the fans were talking about, whoa, Dead Butterflies, this is going to be really cool. And then when the
Yeah.
studio release happened, it was came in like a storm. Ever since that song has
Yeah.
been released, I've heard everybody's been recommending it to me nonstop. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely phenomenal. It was the strings in it just felt so unique and cool. What
Yeah.
kind of went in? I know you played with obviously instrumentation like strings and orchestral on your last record, Holy Hell,
Yeah.
but this almost had a new vibe to it. Can you tell me a little bit about what went into that?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff on this record was almost like the forethought, whereas on the record last time it was like you would add those bits later on, or they would be like little bits. But some of the songs on this, especially Dead Butterflies, was written before there was guitars even on it. The strings and the horns were the first bit that Dan arranged for it, which was amazing. And also amazing to, have that time to have that detail and to be able to pull it off properly, have a proper orchestra, like not have sampled French horns, like have a proper orchestra do it. And it was pretty crazy during the pandemic. We had to get like I think it was like a Swedish orchestra did the French horns, and then the rest of the orchestra were recorded down in Devon when we couldn't be there. And it was amazing. But we were all like sat around in different studios, listening in and being like, "Yep, that sounds perfect," and like just being like, "How is this?" How making music is now. Because normally we're sat in the room watching them do it, being like, "Wow, you guys are geniuses,"
And that's gotta be an interesting feeling in the sense that, like, when you're in the room watching them do it, it's like a slow puzzle piece slowly getting put together. Whereas, does it feel like a completely different process? Whereas, like, they send you stuff, you send them stuff, and then boom, the song is done.
It feels, I feel like there was more work done on the strings this time. So it was really like sending them the sort of demoed ideas with like plugins and things, but then it coming back and being like a whole other level. Like it was just hearing it, it was one of the points in the record where it got us all really excited, because it was like, wow, this is like taking it a step beyond.
Exactly. That is so cool. And I know I mentioned before about like the live stream that you guys did. Now, I've talked to a few artists about this. I'm dying to get your take on this. Essentially, when you perform live, there's this super, what I call like a circle of energy, where you get really hyped up and then the crowd feeds off your energy. And then in turn, you feed off the crowd's energy. And it's this big circle of just like everybody getting hyped up off of each other. Whereas when you're doing a live stream, it has to be very, very weird because there's no crowd, it's just cameras. And even when they do like Instagram live streams, that like flood of hearts doesn't compare to the sound of an audience erupting kind of thing. So how did that go for you guys? How was that experience?
I think in the first part of it, like when we were rehearsing and stuff, it was like completely normal. So you're sort of on like autopilot, where you're like, your brain's like expecting you to feel something in the next couple of days. And then when we started the set, obviously it was really cool to start the set that way, and you sort of get the buzz and the first few songs of like, wow, this is a show, this is what I've been missing. And then sort of 2 songs in, you're like, something's not right. And you're like, it's not my in-ear mix, it's not how we're playing, it's not the room. And then you're obviously immediately like, it's not that slow. You're like, something's wrong, and where the fuck is everybody? And it's just, like as you say, like that connection, like whether it's thousands of people or like even just catching the eye of one person and just knowing how much that bit means to them. That's the coolest bit. That's why we do it. We love playing music together, but it's almost playing music together to see how it's impacted other people's lives, because when we're in the studio, it's obviously meaning so much to us, but then it's given to other people, and then it becomes part of their story. So it was so weird. And it's definitely the fans and people that are there singing along that take shows to like the top level. You can't beat that energy in a room.
Exactly. And that's such a good way to put it, in the sense that like everyone calls like rock concerts a community, and they really, really are, because for the way you put it, it's a bunch of people all there for the same purpose. And it means so much to every single person in that room.
Oh man, it's crazy. It's like a real, it's just like a thing that people look forward to. And it's almost a thing I think that people are like addicted to, and they don't realize, like that sense of like just being in a room and being surrounded by, like-minded people that like the same thing as you. I always like to think that people can go into an architect show and find like a new friend in there, and I definitely think that's true. I've met so many fans that have met other fans through like traveling and coming to our shows. And that's always super cool when you know them as 2 separate people that are normally waiting by the buses or whatever. And then the next time you see them, they're together, and you're like, yes, that's so cool that now I don't have to worry that you're traveling alone.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely love that. And to kind of like backtrack a bit into a previous question that I had, talking a little bit about the album and the songwriting process. you mentioned how, you had an idea, you sent it out and the strings came back. Has the songwriting process in this 2020 pandemic been different at all in terms of like the way that you've written and the way you put, pen to paper?
Yeah. I think during Holy Hell was pretty similar. We're not all of us live in the same place. Me, Dan, and Ali did on Holy Hell, but Josh has always been in Reading. So a lot of stuff has been like ideas sent back and forth while it's taking shape. But on this one, it was pretty creative because we had a month or so in Bali together. So that was a really good spot to sort of iron out all the creases together. But as recording goes, me and Dan were in the same room, and because we recorded the vocals together. Josh and Ali and Adam recorded their guitars at home, and then they had to be reamped in another studio. And Dan had to record the drums by himself. But yeah, the majority of the record was written before the pandemic started. It was just the recording happened during it, which was so weird because normally, we'd be together for like a month, 2 months, living with it. Yeah. But it was nice in a way to kind of be able to like check out at the end of the day and be like, go in, give it everything you possibly have, and then just relax in the evening. Because sometimes when you're in a studio, it's so hard to relax because you're like, well, I could, sit here and have a beer and unwind, or I could just take 10 steps and go into the control room and start being like, but what if we did this? So it was like a time to forcefully stop. But then also we had the luxury of no deadline as well because of the pandemic. So we could really take our time with it and really think about things without having to sort of like squish it all into like a month or something.
And that is such a relief because when there's no deadline, you can be 150% confident that the work that you're putting out is like, okay, this is how I envisioned it. This is the masterpiece that I wanted in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this has been the closest one to us, really achieving what we really set out to do. I think we're always looking at the next one, but yeah, this one, we're really proud of it.
Absolutely. And with this record in particular, one of the things I noticed, and this is just kind of like, something I've noticed a lot on a lot of the previous Architects records, but this one in particular, there's a level of just like overall like energy in the songwriting. And it's nothing to do with like tempo or pacing or rhythm. There's just something in it that just feels energetic and very, very like almost passionate that I absolutely love and gravitate towards. Yeah. I know this is kind of a vague question to ask, but like when you're writing records and when you're 9 records deep into this, when you're writing, how do you continually keep that passion alive?
I think it's just, as you say, like finding that energy and making sure that a song, even if it's a slower song, doesn't drag, where it's like a part comes up and you're like, oh, we're here again. It's like, that's not what you want. You don't want that on and if you have that on your first listen, no one's going for the second listen. I think it's something about that energy. And I think the fact that the music that we write is so important to all of us and so close to all our hearts. And it's more than just like a thing that we do. It's like a hobby and a passion. And on top of it, we managed to get paid to do it, which is unbelievable. So yeah, I think it's that real hunt for that, more than anything, more than like it's a good song that's written well. It's like, well, how does it make me feel? Where is it hitting me in the feels? And is it making me want to go back to the start of the song again and listen to it again? And I think that's one of the things that we always look for, like when demos start coming in, it's like, are you like skipping it to get to a certain bit, or are you like going back to the start and being like, I can't wait to hear it again?
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it, is like when you first hear the song, how addicted to the song are you? Are you like, oh, that was nice? Or do you immediately want to hear it again?
Well, because you remember being younger and like hearing bands that sort of like got you like in the feels where you're like, I've got to go and buy this CD. I've got to, like, I can't believe it. And that's what I always want. I don't just want to put out an Architect song that's just like, meh. It's too, we've come too far to just accept boring stuff.
I love it. Absolutely perfect. And another question I had is, obviously you've spent a ton of time, building this record, making this record. This has been years in the process. Once this release is out, once February 26th happens, you can't really like tour on the record. Like what are you guys going to do after that point?
Yeah, who knows, man? I think me and Dan and Josh have already started sending ideas to each other. just because we're in lockdown, so there's nothing else to do, and it's, we've always had that sort of drive to create in just in a sense of it's fun. It's what gets you through the day, writing some music. I think especially at the moment. But yeah, I think we're just ready to go as soon as we can. Ready to get on tour and play these songs properly, and it's so surreal having these songs come out and not be able to like see people sing along to them. Like you almost like you're normally on tour, your reaction of how a song's gone down is like how it goes down in the set. Whereas now it's like, you find yourself like being like, well, I guess I'll watch a reaction video and see what someone thinks of it. Or you're like, oh, I'll just look at the numbers on Spotify or YouTube and be like, oh, it's going down pretty well. But like, it's so weird not just getting that feeling and seeing that connection. But I think it's going to be all the more sweeter when we get to, because it'll be like getting to play Animals for the first time in front of people is going to be insane, because it's been out for ages, and yeah, we'll finally be able to see what it means to people.
That's a good point that I never really considered was, when you play a song live from a new record, you'll immediately know, oh, the crowd's really vibing to this. Oh, the crowd's kind of, more laid back. Whereas when you do this in the pandemic, you see the Spotify stats go up, but that's all you see. Yeah. You don't know if people are like, how it's going to react. Which is
nuts, because, looking at the numbers and stuff, especially for Animals, it's like, it's up there with one of our most played songs already, which is crazy because it's not even been out. The record's not even out yet. So yeah, I'm just so desperate to see that connection live and, catch eyes with people in the front row that, are singing it better than me.
I love it. And another question that I wanted to ask you, and something kind of backtracking a bit to March when this first all went down. Where were you when the pandemic hit? Like, what was going through your head? I'm dying to know kind of your mental state of when this happened.
We were just leaving Bali. Me and Ali were leaving Bali to come back to the UK. And there'd been like a few things posted around on the news sites and stuff. And then when we got to the airport, we saw people wearing masks and stuff. And we were like, oh, this is mad. Like, this is going to be over soon. Like, like it'll come and go. At the time it was like, oh, it's just a flu, it'll be fine. And then when we landed back in England, it was almost like that week it just went mad. And we were like, okay, we were wrong about this. Like, this is a proper thing, because you're only subjected to what you want to read when you're over there, if you're like on Twitter or whatever. But then when you come home and you're seeing it on the newspapers and on the telly and stuff. And then Dan got the last flight from Bali to England so he could record drums. Like, literally got the last flight out, which was insane. But thank God he did. Otherwise, he'd still be in Bali now, which is unbelievable. But yeah, it's been such a surreal time. But I think the one thing that keeps everybody together for it is we're all in it together. And we're all sort of in this weird sort of limbo where we're excited for life to start again. But, I hope that everybody comes out of it with like a real sense of like excitement and like not taking things for granted. That's all you can hope for, really, isn't it? Because we can't go back to how we were before, because we'll just fucking end up back here again. So hopefully there's some change coming.
The excitement you said, I know I talked to Johannes from Avatar, and one of the things he said was when shows return, every show is going to feel like your first concert ever. Yeah. That feeling you had in your chest for the very first show you saw, it's going to feel like that for like a year. And like, I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it.
What's amazing as well is I think Brighton's a big town, but we're not anywhere near as big as some of the places in America where some venues have a show every single night, and you could go to a show every single night of the week if you wanted to. But more often than not, they're not all full, because, that it's impossible to do that. Whereas now I think like every show is going to be full. It's like, no matter what show's going through, people are going to be like, you want to go to a show? Yeah, I miss live music. Let's go.
And it's such a therapeutic experience too, is seeing live music. And it's, as you know, from the artist perspective, it's therapeutic. From the fans perspective, it's therapeutic. I know we've talked about it a lot in the interview, but it's so true. We can't stress it enough. And the world really needs it right now.
Absolutely. I think everybody needs that kind of escapism, and that sort of like 45 minutes or to an hour and a half or however long your set is, where if you love that band, you're not thinking about anything else for those 45 minutes. You're just locked in and just enjoying the songs that, you know, have helped you through stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty an intense feelings when it comes back, but it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. All right. And now another question that I have, and this is something for me personally, kind of a little bit in my story, is for the last 2 years, I've been a fan of Architects for a long time now. I've really, really followed the band for years now. Huge fan. I actually started to slowly go to veganism once
Amazing.
once I started hearing kind of like about you know, the stuff you've talked about in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of like what you've said, because a lot of people have this like stereotype of like veganism in their head of like, you know, oh, quote unquote, like the annoying vegan and all that. And then hearing like, you know, like a legit like rock star, a band that, you know, I look up to, really appreciate, kind of say like, no, this is the only way to stop global warming, it was very, very helpful. And I've been very, very making that change for myself. I went, you know, from cutting down on meat to pescatarian. I'm vegetarian now, and I'm getting to that point. And that had such a strong impact on me. I want to obviously talk to you a little bit about, you know, not eating meat in 2021. You know, I know the effects of that.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think now more than ever, and especially during this pandemic, you realize these issues have come from the wet markets over in China, which is where there's like animals that are alive, and then the wet market. So you pick your animal and then they kill it there. And then it's like the amount of disease and things that come from there is crazy. So there's that aspect. But then there's also the aspect of like these farms across the world that have so many animals being slaughtered, and the amount of food and grain that is used to feed them. And it's this ongoing cycle, which is completely unsustainable. You know, I think at first, you know, I agree. Like, we would have eaten meat back in the day, but we would have eaten meat on a Saturday or a Sunday, and it would have been like a chicken, and you would have made it last for the week. You know, it wasn't like it is now, where you can wake up and have 7 different types of meat or fish with one meal for before the start of midday. And I don't think our stomachs, I don't think the world is supposed to live like that. But I also, you know, I commend people that take the steps, that start to slowly cut things out, because overnight it can be a big shock. You know, it's not a thing. I did it. I went vegan and stopped smoking in the same day, which was full on. But I think I think those steps are what's commendable. When people go like, I'm not going to eat meat on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but I might do on the other days while I'm adjusting. I'm like, you know, you can't expect everybody to make this transition overnight and be perfect at it. And I think the other thing that I've learned over the years is like, it's so important to almost just be there when somebody wants to ask a question, rather than like put it down their throat. Because if you catch somebody off guard and you're like, did you know that you're doing this and this and this to the planet? They're like, whoa, what, you want to fight? You know, whereas if someone's like, oh, I tried this new thing from Gardein, or I tried the Impossible Burger, then you can be like, oh, well, if you think that's good, like, you should try this, and you can do this at home. And, you know, I think that's the best way to start those conversations. But yeah, I really do think moving forward, I think eradicating it completely is like a dream, and I would love that to happen. But I feel like that will be very hard. But definitely, I think, you know, the amount that people consume has to change, you know, because you only get one shot at living here. And, you know, and I mean that in the sense of like, hopefully people will just have one car, you know, hopefully there'll be like less flights a day with nobody on it. You know, I think everything needs to change, because, you know, it's a strange world we live in, but it's amazing. And we need to do everything we can to fight for it, for kids more than anything. You know, they're the ones that are going to grow up and be like, you fucking did what?
Yeah. And I had no idea how true that was until I started to stop eating meat, was how much people eat meat. And especially in America here, the majority of people eat meat every single day. Like, it is rare to not even eat meat like once, not one, you know what I mean? To go a day without eating meat. Yeah. And that just took me off guard. I was not expecting that, because you don't think about it.
I think also the thing is as well is like, you know, when you say like so many people are like, oh, you're all you do is talk about your veganism, and it's like, well, if I go somewhere and you offer me a sandwich with meat in it, I've got to say it. Like I can't just go like, oh, you know what, I don't want to say it. I'm just going to eat it because I feel bad. You're like, sorry, I'm vegan, and then people are annoyed, and you should. It's actually hard, isn't it? Because you want to be like, actually, I'm not sorry, I'm vegan. Like, I'm sorry that you're not. You know,
Yeah,
it's a weird one, but you know, you see the change coming, and I think especially America was way ahead of it. I think from our point of view, when we've been touring in America, like there's so many good spots. But now every time, everywhere we go in the world, when we were allowed out the fucking house, you see the change that's happening, and it's so amazing.
That's super awesome to hear. And yeah, it's nice to know that a lot of fans who hopefully listen in and can hear this can also even just again cut back on meat once a week, twice a week.
Yeah, and I think the main thing from that is just see how it makes you feel. You know, people are only telling you to do this because it's changed their lives in a positive way. I always try and say it's like, well, if you found out if you had a perfect record and you wanted people to hear it, you'd be like, you've got to hear this record. And it's like if you did something that was positive not only for you but for the environment, and you felt really good, you'd be like, hey, you should maybe try this because like 10 months ago, I was still eating meat or whatever. And then you're like, but I feel great. I've lost weight. My blood pressure's down. You know, it can only be a positive, but just depends what kind of day you catch people on, I think.
Exactly. And there's this really funny, thing I saw where it's like people can be like, all right, I'm going out for a drink. Okay, bye. All right, I'm going out for a smoke. Okay, bye. All right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go have like a salad or whatever. It's like, oh, you need protein, you need meat. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there. And now, so one more question I had. Thank you so much again for talking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to dive into your mind about the new record, the state of the world, and everything in between.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure, man.
The last question I had is, what is one central theme you want fans to take away from this record? When people hear For Those Who Wish to Exist for the very, very first time, what is something you want them to kind of, what do you want to leave them with?
I would like it to start a conversation, but more than anything, like a peaceful one. You know, I think we live in this world where it's left against the right, blues versus the reds, like no in between, no conversation. And like, you know, I get it. There's things on either side that really people off. But I think we're never going to move anywhere until we really just start building up that sense of community and conversation again. You know, I think the battles that can be won can be done on your front doorstep by, you know, speaking to your neighbor kindly, you know, rather than just being terrified. And I think that's more of like a state of the world. You know, we're all ready for an argument or a fight or whatever because there's so much crazy stuff going on. But really, when you like boil it down, you know, we've all just got to start being a bit kinder to each other. And I think what the record is more, instead of a pointing fingers at anyone, it's more of a conversation of where we're at as humans and a sort of like have a look around. Is like, are you okay with this, or do you know, should we change? Like, what are we going to do? You know, it's got to happen, and yeah, I hope it can, you know, spark a friendly debate here and there.
I cannot wait. Thank you so much again for talking with me today. For Those Who Wish to Exist, out February 6th on anywhere you can stream or buy music. Thank you again, Sam Carter.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much.